We're having a bit of problems getting Arif, the course director, joining in, but we've got my dulcet tones to listen to until he jumps in. Welcome to the webinar for tonight. This is the induction webinar for all the new students in 2018-45. Those of you who are ready to study, this might just be some reiteration of things you already know, but for those of you who have any questions, this is going to be the best time to ask it. I'm Chantal Hale. I work with IT Masters and I help with student queries from time to time, but I also help design these courses. Tonight we'll be covering a welcome to Charles Sturt University and what's involved in your CSUITM Masters courses. I'll show you around your IT Masters course site and your Interact 2 site. If you haven't checked it out, give it a go. We'll have a little look at your student portal. And then I'm going to be talking about some really generic, general study tips, most of which are just, you may already know, but for those of you who haven't studied in a while, this might be useful to you. You may have noticed in your webinar software that you have the ability to turn on your camera and turn on your mic. If you need to ask a question, probably at the end is best, but it does mean you can ask it out loud if you'd like to. Otherwise, just probably best to keep yourself muted so that you don't end up having all your fellow students hearing you and whatever's going on in your house. Alrighty then, let's get started. We've got here some of the Charles Sturt University campuses. You may have noticed that these campuses are located mostly around rural New South Wales. You're all distance education students, so you don't ever have to attend a campus, but you might like to when you graduate from your course so that you can attend the graduation ceremony. But you can see some of the gorgeous scenes here featured around different areas in rural New South Wales, in Wagga and Bathurst and Albury. So we've invited you tonight because you're enrolled in one of the following CSUIT Masters courses. I think this is all of it. There's the MBA or the Master of Cloud Computing. The Master of Cybersecurity is a new one, which people have been enjoying. You may find that you've got several different subjects to choose from. There are two different types of subjects that we offer here. We've got the CSU subjects, the academic subjects, and they start with ITC, MGT, MKT, FIN, or HRM. So those ones are designed and developed by CSU academic lecturers. And then there's the IT Masters subjects. They start with ITE, ITI, or MGI. And those are designed and developed from IT Masters with our industry lecturers. Those subjects, we try and have industry professionals to teach you about things that you might experience in the workplace. All of your subjects will have online classes, usually after hours, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And the IT Master subjects all of these subjects will be done in Zoom. You'll find that there are some subjects, the CSU subjects might be done in Adobe Connect or a different software, but you should have an opportunity to speak to your mentor at least once a week in classes, if not on the discussion forums. CSU Handbook's a really valuable place to check out. It has all of your the subjects that you should be studying, the exact course that you are looking at. You can find information there on what subjects that you should be studying and some more information on the subjects themselves. So I'll go a little further in. This is the Master of Cybersecurity articulated set. And you can see that includes the Master of Cybersecurity and the Graduate Certificate in Cybersecurity. If you're doing a graduate certificate, you will know that that is 4 subjects of your Masters. You can find what subjects are available for both of those courses in these handbook pages. They have a lot of information here. You can find which ones are electives and which ones are core. If there are core subjects, make sure that you are studying those ones that you're making room for them. The electives can be really fun, but these handbooks will tell you the exact subjects that you need to complete in order to obtain your master's. So you can see here, because this is the graduate certificate, you've got its only elective subjects, and you've got that group A, which you can see I was talking about the CSU subjects. They start with ITC, MKT, HRM, that sort of thing. You can see these group A elective academic subjects all start with ITC. And then group B elective industry subjects start with ITI, ITE, or MGI. Sorry, and you can see then if you scroll down the page, you'll be able to find the master. If you're enrolled in the master, you'll be doing 12 subjects. And so this has 8 core subjects and 4 restricted electives. The restricted electives, you can choose any of them as long as you follow the instructions set in your handbook. Your handbook is a really valuable resource to make sure that you've got the right subjects and that you don't get in any sticky situations in studying the wrong subjects to get your degree. If you do have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a yell and ask about that. Another incredibly useful site is your IT Masters course site. And that has information on, it has course induction presentations, it has course contacts, has discussion forums, it has a link to the Facebook page. It has a lot of information about studying your degree as a whole. So you can see that in your Interact page. If you go to interact2.csu.edu.au or to your student page, student.csu.edu.au, you can see you've got your course pages, and they're not assigned to any term, but you also have your subject pages. And that's where you're going to find information about what you should be studying, what pages of the textbook you should be reading, discussion forums, assessment items, your subject outline. So you can see here, this is one of the IT Masters subjects, IT 512, that we've put up here, and it has information. The subject outline has all of their assessment due dates and information. It has contacts, announcements, which will be emailed to you as well, discussion forums where you will be able to interact with your fellow students that are in your subject with you, and information on assessments when they're due, and how to submit them. And you'll be submitting them into East usually. And it has the weekly learning materials. So these student pages are probably where you're going to spend most of your time when studying. So you can see here, this is the student page, the student portal. So student.csu.edu.au. If you haven't been there, go there as soon as possible. It has emails, it has links to your subject pages, and it has information about it has your message center, and it has information about other CSU elements. You can see here the administration page has your enrollment details, how to enroll or add subjects, how to change your personal details, which can be incredibly important, finding online transcripts, that sort of thing, and message center, where CSU will be sending you some of the most important elements some of the most important information that's relevant to you. For instance, exam timetables will be sent to your message center. You'll be notified via email that you have a message, but it's up to you to check it. There's also a lot of services and support available on your student.csu.edu page, and those can have a lot of really important information about how to study or what to do if you're unhappy with your grades, or where to go if you need student support, information about fees, that sort of thing. There's a lot of information that can be incredibly relevant here. Also has this information about university resources. So for people who are returning to study, university resources can be some of the most important helping points, jumping off points, particularly if you never studied postgraduate or if you haven't studied postgraduate in 20 or 30 years. These pages will be incredibly important. The Allen team, the Academic Literacy, Learning and Numeracy Support team, provides free support services 7 days a week, online and on campus for all CSU students. You can book an Allen advisor for 45-minute appointments to discuss a range of learning issues. These appointments aren't designed to review specific assignments, but you are welcome to provide short and relevant examples of your work on which to frame a discussion. Appointments can be face-to-face, via Skype, or on phone. There's also StudyLink. StudyLink provides a choice of up to 20 short subjects which can boost your university studies by giving you academic skills that you need, say essay writing, or a chance to fill in any knowledge gaps, and information and experience in studying online, or you could go to a weekend workshop provided by StudyLink. You'll also find some study guides and tips. They're really useful tips that cover a lot of things that students that aren't always common knowledge to students. It has things like weekly planners so that you can plan out your study, and then more long-term planning to help sort out when assessments are due and when life is about to get a bit more hectic. It has information on critical reading and how to take notes effectively and learning styles, academic writing, referencing. Hopefully all those things that you will need when studying at university, but may not have had to think about in your work life. One of the important elements here is the time commitment to study. So this says 3 sessions per year, but it's actually 6. So you guys are joining 2018 45. And it's important to keep up with your study each week. The university recommends 9 to 11 hours of study a week per subject. And while this isn't always feasible and sometimes study gets away from us, it's important to spread your study out. These 9 to 11 hours won't always be consistent. There'll be weeks when you don't have to spend much time at all, and weeks, especially when an assignment is due, where you spend more time than this. It's important that you don't drop your study for weeks at a time. I know work can get busy or life can happen, but if you study a little bit every day or even every week, you'll remember the previous week's material much better. This will also help you remember to take breaks. If you try and cram an entire week's worth of work into one time period without planning for breaks, you won't learn effectively and you'll grow to hate your subject. We've found it's best if students can pick a time of day that they study every day. It could be 8 p.m. after work or even an hour before work if you're a morning person. And that means that you can study to what your strength is, when you learn best or when you have the most free time. And it also means that you might be able to keep a habit better so that you don't let your studies run away from you. So you can study up to 1 subject or 4 subjects per session. You will have started with 1 subject in the 45 session, and then once the next session starts in November, you'll basically you can start doing 2 subjects a session. So when you start your second subject, you will be halfway through your first subject, so you'll have a really good understanding of the amount of time commitment that's required, and you'll be able to study and plan out your assessments better. You can take a leave of absence. That just means that you won't be studying for that session, but you'll still be listed on the CSU books. And you can study, I think it's 3 leaves of absence without any explanation. And if you go over that, you can just speak to your course coordinator and they can give you more leaves of absence as you need it. Setting up your study space. Studies have found that the place or the context that you study in affects how you'll remember that information. It can sound really hokey to say that you should set up a study space, but it can be a major factor in how you achieve your study goals. Don't study in your bedroom if you can help it. This will impact not only how well you retain information, but how well you sleep. If possible, you should find a place that's comfortable, but not so comfortable that you get too relaxed. Don't make it so warm you start drifting off. And don't have too many distractions. If you can find it so that it's clean and professional, but also happy and inviting. Make sure it's well lit enough that you can comfortably take notes and that any backlit machines don't hurt your eyes. If you keep all your study material in your study space, it will encourage you to keep studying instead of getting up every few minutes to get something new that you need. Remember that water is an important study material. You should also consider virtual spaces when setting up your study space. Where are you saving your work? How are you backing it up? You can never have too many backups when it comes to assignments, but also consider that different programs for notes themselves can be useful. I used to use OneNote a lot while I studied so that I could have documents in the clouds and it could link to other assessments, but it just depends on what you feel comfortable with. So we've got a few assessment types here, and you can see here we've got an example here of one of the study support tools that was available in that student.csu page that I showed you earlier. So there are several different assessment types that you have to cover. You've got the research essay, which is answering a question, presenting an argument based on facts. Subject participation, this is forum post, interacting with other students. Business reports, which often involve investigating and analysis of an issue, recommending actions and making proposals, which provide information that someone needs to help them make decisions. You've got case studies, where you're given a situation to examine and you identify positives and negatives and make recommendations. Presentations, sometimes audio only, sometimes a video. These can be the most feared of all assessment types, but often the most useful. Labs, often in IT-related subjects, you're given a lab environment to work in and try out software or situations related to what you're learning. Quizzes, these are usually mid-session and they're sometimes used to gauge where students are at during the session. We often have one before census date to make sure everybody is actually studying and is involved. And then you've got exams. Those are end of session summation of knowledge. Make sure that you've learnt all you needed. At IT Masters, we're trying to have our online exams. So for the 45 session, your exams, if your subject has an exam, it will be online. You submit it, you sit it in your computer at home, and you are proctored online from someone who's probably somewhere overseas who can see you via webcam and making sure that you're not cheating. We'll send out more information about that towards the end of session. So here's some really useful guides, again, at that study skills site that I was showing you earlier. It's called, there's a lot on assessments and how to approach them. So you can see here, there's a lot here, and some of them may seem really obvious to you. So you may think, I know how to do academic writing style, or I know what an essay is. But some people haven't ever written an essay in a university setting. So these can be really good guides to try those out. The CSU Guide to Writing Your First Assignment covers in more detail not only the types of assignments you might be completing, but how to break down an assignment question and work out exactly what you should create for your assignment. And it's really important to read through your assignment and work out the actual question rather than what you think the question is. So this guide is really good at showing you how to break up a question so that you're answering what they want an answer for. Read the question carefully and make sure you understand what you're going to be marked on, because every single session, we have one student who submits an assignment that's often really good, but isn't answering the question being asked. All assignments are worth different amounts, and it's really important to take that into consideration when you're planning it. An assignment that's worth 15% should take a considerable amount less time than an assignment that's worth 50%. Word count may not seem really important, but it's there for a reason. You can lose marks if you go 10% above or below, and it's often a really good guide to how detailed you should be. Table of contents and the reference list at the end of your assessment don't count towards word count, but your headings throughout do, as well as in-text references. To be fair to other students, we do tend to take word count really seriously, because if you have an essay that's asking for 2,000 words and a student writes 3,000 words, they just have much more opportunity to say things. So we do apply a penalty if you go too far above or below a word count. The marking criteria for an assessment breaks things into chunks that are important. Every assignment, we have students who ignore something or don't pay it enough attention because it's included towards the end of the criteria. But if it's worth, say, 20%, that's 2 letter grades. And it does become a huge problem to students then. So before you start writing your assignment, work out how much each area is worth, because that's how much time you should be spending thinking about it, planning on it. And the marking rubric is one of the most important part about your assessments. It should be a key resource when planning your assessment, and it should tell you exactly what you're expected to produce in order to get a HD. I've seen amazing assignments that show an incredibly deep level of thinking, but almost fail because they don't do what the assessment and what the rubric is asking them to do. Academic writing. It's similar to business writing, but it can be different. So we've got the basic structure here for academic writing. Basic paragraph structure is really important when writing anything, but especially when it comes to assessments. Most new students put too much in every paragraph, and it makes it harder to read. You want whoever marks your assignment to be able to follow what you're saying. So the basic idea is that you start with a topic sentence. It has the main idea of the paragraph, and then you support it with references, with further information. It develops and supports, but doesn't necessarily introduce new ideas. And the closing sentence restates the main idea of the paragraph and links to the main idea of the next paragraph. The idea being, if you were to just read the first and last sentence of every paragraph in your essay, you would get a really basic idea of what that essay was about. Some people find it really difficult to move into academic writing style. It's actually not that different from business writing style, but there's this guide that you can find in that student support area that will really help you work out your style and how to make it flow. I find the most common mistake new students make is referring to what they believe rather than simply saying something and backing it up with evidence. Tend to avoid, if you're writing an essay, I would recommend that you avoid saying I think or I believe. Just simply say what you believe and back it up with evidence. And it's also really important to consider referencing. Whatever's included in your essay that's not attributed to someone else is assumed to be yours. So again, there's a guide on referencing. You will have to reference at some stage during your degree. Check the style. Most CSU subjects use APA 6. And keep references as you study, including key quotes. I often will have a document that I keep on Dropbox that is just called the subject number. And if I'm reading through notes or if I'm listening to webinars or whatever, if I hear something that I think will be relevant to the assessments, then it's really important to copy the quote and where you found it. Include all the information on how to find it, because there's nothing worse than trying to write an essay and then being like, I know that I read something that supports what I said, but I can't find it in all of the journal articles or all of the things I read through. So anytime you find a relevant quote, put it into a document, a Google Doc, somewhere that you can reference later on. The don't reference Wikipedia is a tough one. I often get students saying, but Wikipedia has been shown to be more accurate than a lot of textbooks. And this is absolutely true, but you can't reference something that you can change. And Wikipedia, you can change it. So you could, for instance, change Wikipedia and then use that as a reference, and then it looks fine when someone's marking your assessment. So sometimes it's good to open up Wikipedia to get an overview of a topic or maybe a link to some academic writing on a topic, but it's important that you don't include a reference to Wikipedia. You can find information on how to know if something is of a standard that means you can reference it in that referencing its CSU page on your student page. We've also got some information on who to contact. The new student page has a lot of information on who you should contact and when. And if you are ever in doubt and you have no idea who you should contact admin at IT Masters. They will either be able to point you into the right area or help you out. There's also a number that you can call if you wanted to speak to somebody, and somebody will answer between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. With extension requests, we understand that you're all busy people. You all work full-time, most of you, and you may need an extension. You probably will need at least one extension during your Masters. The earlier you ask for it, the more likely it is to be accepted. Even if you're not sure, it's worth asking sometimes. Reaching out. Again, going back to Alan, if you're having problems, contact these guys. They're very helpful. They have an ability to contact them, get individual appointments, assessment review, workshops, and more. It's important to contact people rather than waiting until the last minute. And lastly, but not least, we've set up a Google Hangouts for you guys to chat with if you want to. It's just an opportunity to talk to your fellow new students. You are in no way obliged to join it, but if you would like, I'll send the link into the chat now, and then we'll. Sorry, turns out I haven't copied it. Just a moment. Just going to find my Hangouts. Sorry about that. And then you can join in and chat with your fellow students. So that's about it for tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the group chat or in the Google Hangouts. I had a question, getting an invoice for each of the units of study. That should be available on your student page, but I will have a little look and see if I can't find more information for you. The StudyLink courses are free, as far as I know, for all students who are sitting CSU subjects. I will have to get back to you about where you find your CHESSN number, unless Neil, who's here, might know.
Sorry, Chantel.
Neil is in student support with IT Masters, and he will be able to help you in lots of areas. So Karen was saying you can find it on your first Commonwealth Assistance Notice, I think, that the fee office will send out. Thank you for your help there, Karen. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into that chat box, or to send them through to admin, or to give us a call. I might drop into that Hangouts every few weeks just to give you guys a little reminder that your student services are there, and to see what we're all up to. But apart from that, I think that's about it for tonight. How many different subjects are running during term 3? We only have 3 subjects running during term 3. So you may know that these are trial subjects running through their term system. And we're trialing enough subjects so that we can see if it's useful and if it works. So there's MGI 521, I think it is. There is ITC. I've lost all ability to remember them. I'll just look them up. But there's just 3 subjects, and you should only be doing 1 subject. Yeah, Neil's made a really important point. You are not alone. I think most issues that a student has had, some other student has had them. And like I said, we're not monsters. We understand you're working hard, that you've got things to do. If you need assistance, if you need an extension, if something's not going right, contact us and then we will try and help. So I might just leave it open just in case people have a few questions, and then we can wrap it up. Tomorrow we'll send out a link to the webinar so that you can rewatch it if you need to, and also some of the links to those study assistants that I sent through. I might just mute myself for a minute. I hope you guys found this useful. If you have any questions, again, in the forum, in the discussion forum.